This is an incredible story about a World War II plane called GLACIER GIRL. And what's that got to do with the Appalachians? Well, it was brought here to Minisboro, Kentucky to be rebuilt after laying under a glacier for probably over 70 years. And this is the incredible story of GLACIER GIRL. The year was 1942, and the U.S. just started their heavy bombing campaigns into Europe, so they needed all the planes they could get. So they would just, when they got some planes built in the U.S., they would fly them over. And they would fly a group of planes over to England. But this particular mission, this was a mission from Maine to Scotland. And it had a total of 2 B-17 and a 6-plane squadron of P-38s, Lightnings, escorting it. And all was doing good on a summer day. This was in July. Till they got about Iceland and it hit bad weather. They tried to go on as far as they could, but the report says that it just got so bad they had to turn around and land somewhere. So the closest place to land was in Greenland. So they flew around there and found them a good spot to land. And they had to land one at a time. Now this particular P-38 that turned into be GLACIER GIRL was piloted by Lieutenant Harry L. Smith, a 23-year-old pilot. So as they run out of fuel, he come in with his landing gear up and landed a good soft landing. Of course, it never would take back off on its own power. It bent the props and stuff. So he was okay. The other P-38s, they flew around till they got low on fuel, and they had to land one at a time. Some of them didn't land so good. Some of them flipped on their back, but still, the pilots was okay. Everybody got out okay. Now the B-17s, they carried a lot more fuel than the little fighters did. So they flew around, the report says, for a few hours, and then they had to land with their landing gear up. And their plane seemed to be okay, just bent the props and stuff. And there they was. So they worked their way to the coast of Greenland, and there they waited for 9 days for rescue. And they was picked up and rescued. And there them planes laid for over 70 years. They laid there. Now, in the late 70s, there was a Pat Elps and a Richard Taylor that attended some of these veterans shows, and they was intrigued by some of these stories they told about this planes that went down in Greenland. So they got a crew together and see if they could retrieve some of them. And it took them a while to find them. They wasn't in the original spot where they landed because the glacier had moved them closer to the coast. I reckon it was miles away. So they did get the crew together and started trying to set up the way to get down to them. They was pretty deep. They was 1,250 feet deep from the surface. That's how much snow and ice pack has fell in 70 years. And here you can see how the setup was. They had a heat cone that went down at a 4-foot diameter down to the plane. And they used a hot water cannon to melt the ice down to it. And when they got down to it, this is what it looked like. They melted it all around it, and it was pretty crushed, just the weight of the ice, but they wasn't in really bad condition. So they started dismantling it. They took them apart piece by piece and hauled them to the outside. Now they checked on some of the other planes that was close by, but they were too far gone. But this is the one they seemed to manage, the one that Harry L. Smith flew. This will be Glacier Girl. And they hauled them up piece by piece. And this took them some time to do it. So their funds was kind of getting low. And Roy Schaffner from Minnesboro, Kentucky, he was really intrigued by it and interested himself. He was a businessman. So he helped invest into that. And he had a shop there that they would bring it to Minnesboro, Kentucky to rebuild it. And I reckon they brought it to Minnesboro in 1992. Now here they painstakingly started putting it back together, piece by piece. What amazes me is being able to find the parts for it. Here's how it looked when it come to the shop. The cockpit. Here's how it looks after they finished it. Completely redone. Beautiful. Here's the old cockpit dash, instrument panel, and there's the new one. They even rebuilt the guns on her, 50 calibers. All new stuff. I don't know if I ever fired it though. And here she looks at her. It took 8 years to restore. 8 years. Beautiful. Now here's Mr. Roy Schaffner with the technician. He's passed on now, but he loved this plane with all his heart. And here she's sitting out here on the runway. I guess they done a lot of practice tests on the engines and stuff before they took it up. A lot of tests being made. Everything's right. And they finally took it up in October of 2002. Now here's some of the footage that I have, personal footage, on an old camcorder when she was flying. Her practice runs. Now she is a beautiful plane, but I reckon after a while they sold her to somebody else out west, and she still flies to this day in all these air shows. So I hope you enjoyed this bit of history. I know I did, so thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you next time.